Greetings to everyone. In this lecture video, our agenda is arrays. So we will know completely about arrays and what is the definition, advantages, disadvantages, number of types, and anonymous array, jagged array. So without wasting time, we will move to the we'll stick to the agenda. So definition. Array definition. An array is a collection of similar type of elements which have continuous memory locations. You need to note two things here. Array is a collection of what? Similar type of elements, and those elements are arranged in continuous memory locations. So right, we will see a diagram here. Look at that. Consider this is a memory. So this is a memory. In the memory, uh, memory was partitioned into, consider that just for imagination, memory is partitioned into bytes. These are the bytes. For suppose if the size of the memory is what 1 GB, then how many number of bytes of number of blocks are there? 1024 into 1024, right? 1024 MB, actually 1024 MB, and MB is nothing but 1024, right? 1024 KB. So here these are the bytes. So, and each byte is referenced with an address. So each byte is referenced with an address. So right, so each byte is referenced with an address. For suppose if you have stored if you initialized a is equal to 10, so if the 10 value stored in the address, so you can access this 10 with the variable a or with the address of this byte. Okay, if the address of this byte is xyz, so you can access the value 10 using xyz address or using the variable a. That means nothing but a is a synonym for memory location, right? So xyz is equal to a or vice versa, a is equal to xyz. So using those you can access the value of a. So up to here we are clear that memory was divided into bytes for imagination, and if we consider a memory size of 1 GB that has number of bytes, so each byte is having its address. So see that, for suppose uh, in each memory byte one program actually running. Here word program is running, and here uh, Photoshop program is running, and here paint is running, right? So these memory cells are busy with some other programs, and these many number of memories are ready to take the task. So because memory is used to execute the user programs. In our case, here you can see that an array is a collection of similar type of elements which have continuous memory locations. What do you mean by continuous memory locations? Continuous memory location means sequence, right? Sequence of memory location without any break, without any break. So right, and what about that? And in that continuous memory locations, we need to store same kind of data uh, items, data values. So here we need to store, if you want to store only integers, you can store if for suppose if the array size is 10, you can store continuous 10 integer values in the memory. And if you want to store 10 character values continuously, you need to find out 10 10 memory locations, 10 memory locations free, continuous memory, 10 continuous memory locations free, right? Then only array will be stored there. Then what? Array is index based, right? So see here, here we can say that each byte is having its own address, and it is unable to remember all the bytes of addresses, right? Those many number of addresses we cannot remember. So for that purpose we have used variable. And when you create an array, so maybe the array contains 100 values, maybe the array contains 25 values. So remembering those many 25 addresses is also highly impossible, because we cannot know what is the value in the address. So right, so for that arrays are indexed. So arrays are indexed, the first element of the array is stored at the 0th indection. Maybe in the memory it may start from here, from, but not from the beginning, even though the creation of the starting point of the memory location is treated as 0th location for that particular array variable. So and the second element is stored on the first index, and so on, right? You can look at the diagram here, the first index, so 0. You can see that these it is the representation of array. You can see that this is the representation of array. You can imagine that, if you have, these are the memory locations. If you remove all these, then you can know that this is the array index, right? So these are the blocks, right? These are the array representation, right? And we can get the length of the array using the length member. For suppose you don't know how many values are there in the array, then if you wanted to find the length of the array dynamically, and you can use the member variable length. So if the array name is a, then you can use a dot length. So then a dot length gives where array variable a's number of elements, right? Here you can see that these are the advantages of an array. So there are two advantages. One is code optimization and random access. See that code optimization. What is code optimization? For that I'm using my editor. In that editor, if you wanted to declare 25 integer variables, for suppose imagine that there is no concept of arrays. So what will happen means, I need to take 25 variables, right? A, int B, int C, and so on, right? So see that I have taken from A to Y, total how many? 25 variables. So I need to assign 25 variables. See that to assign the 25 variables from line number 1 to, it may take 25 lines, right? 25 lines, this is and so on, right? It will take 25 number of lines in my program. So to declare same kind of data, right? All are integers right here, same kind of data, but with different values. I need to create variable and in the memory location the variable has to be assigned, and memory location has to be created, and the value has to be stored. And a b c and up to z, all the variables may not be in the continuous order, and it takes number of lines in my code. So in the compilation phase, the compiler may take to convert from uh, user understandable form to machine understandable form. From line 1 to line 25, it may take a 0.01 milliseconds. So that is also considerable amount that reduces the efficiency of a program. So what is the solution for this kind of assignments is array. So in array we can reduce these many number of, that means 25 lines of code, 25 lines of code, and I am assigning only one array. So with a single statement, all the values all the values, that means 25 values are assigned in a variable called array, right? So in the compilation stage it doesn't take much time as compared to the 25 number of lines, right? So this is the advantage, and this is called the code optimization. Reducing number of lines in a program is nothing but code optimization. And one more advantage is what? Random access, right? Consider two things. We have in traditional days we have that in a music player or some other players, if you wanted to listen a song you need to have a cassette, right? In the cassette, in the cassette, if you want to listen song number 10, then what you need to do is you need to forward. That means you need to read that thing, but you need to forward, speed forward song number 1 to song number 9, then only you can reach song number 10. So what about random access? So random access means if you wanted to listen song number 10, you can directly move from 1 to 10. No need to touch second song, third song, fourth song, and so on up to 9, because this kind of random access you can see in disk, CD, DVDs, you can see that. So right, that is the random access you can see in our array. In our array you can see that here we have 10 number of values in an array. So if you wanted to access uh, index number 9, then you can directly go from 0 to 9 without touching all these, because you can access the elements of an array using index directly. If you know the index of an array, then you can access the content of the array easily. What is the disadvantage? So see that we can store only fixed size of elements in the array. It doesn't grow its size at runtime. Imagine that while creating an array, you thought that I need to store only 5 values in that. So after creation and running the program, while the program started running, and you thought that you need to enter one more value in the array, but after fifth position. So that is not possible, because you decided that you need to enter only 5 values in that, so that you mention the size of an array as 5. After mentioning, the array size is constant. It will not take one more value after fifth position. So that means size of an array is fixed. And another thing is, when you mention the size of an array as 5, then there is no chance to shrink the array also. There is no decrement in the size of an array also. So if you enter 3 values, after that if you wanted to exit from the array, then those memory locations are still assigned to that particular array, but they are unused memory locations. So the such kind of unused memory locations will be collected using garbage collector in the array. And solution for this array is from collection framework. Collection framework is nothing but vectors list, right? So in the vectors and list, uh, the size of the vector or the size of the list automatically increase based on the requirement at the runtime. Types of an array. There are two types of arrays, single dimensional and multi-dimensional. So in the single dimensional, we can see the syntax, how to create an array in the single dimensional. See that you can create a single dimensional array in these three types. So dimension, you can see that this is the array dimension. So if you have that one dimension, means that is single dimensional array. So first you need to decide the data type of an array, then after you can mention the dimension, and then after you can take the variable, or you can mention the data type and dimension, then after dimension has to be attached to the variable. Another and most frequently used representation in the single dimensional is data type, variable name, dimension, right? So that is the thing. And here you can see instantiation of an array. We will see that, but we will go into the programming part of a single dimensional array. See that taking a class uh, here here I'm creating an array, so arr, and here I am taking static assignment. There is no dynamic instantiation. Here I'm creating static assignment, and so here you can see that it means that arr is a array, and it indicates that this symbol indicates that it is a single dimensional array, and of type what, integer. In the integer array we have the three values in it. That means size of an array is 3. This is nothing but static allocation. Static allocation means uh, giving a input while running a program is nothing but dynamic allocation. Giving an input before compiling the program is nothing but static allocation. Okay, so see that array. I will save this program. So right, this is the static allocation, and in this case there is no dynamic instantiation is required. There is no dynamic instantiation is required. Instantiation is nothing but initializing the array. So initialization, nothing but what? Initialization is nothing but creating a memory, allocating the memory, and allocating the memory and assigning a value in that memory, right? So in this case we need 3 continuous memory locations, and those continuous memory locations must store what? Integer data type. So right, you can print this. arr of I need to write the for loop there. Arr dot what length is a member variable, right? That is enough. You can save this thing again and you can compile. So what we need to, we have missed the semicolon, semicolon. System, in the system I need to give capital letter and save it again. It's done. Run the program. Right, 12, 15, 16. This is static allocation. So coming to instantiation part, look at that. Instantiation of an array. So instantiation of an array is useful when you wanted to supply or you wanted to decide the size of an array at the runtime. When you wanted to decide size of an array at runtime, then dynamic instantiation is useful. So for that, this is the syntax. This is the syntax. See here, array reference variable, and using new keyword we can allocate memory dynamically, and here you can see data type and size that you require. See that in our program we will do that. So I have declared array here. So I have only declared array and I didn't mention the size of an array, and I mentioned two things here. This is single dimensional array and it takes integers, right? And I didn't mention the size, right? So for that I'm taking one more, system dot out dot println. So enter size of an array. So int size is equal to integer dot parse int, and here readline method is available, needed to read the input dynamically, and readline method is available in where data input stream class, right? So I need to create object for data input stream, new data input stream, and you can see that data input stream is a predefined class, right? So we need to import package for data input stream. So I'm going here using import state keyword, import java dot io dot data input stream. So required package was there and required class is there, class was inserted, imported, and I have created a object for data input stream. So using that data input stream I will access readline method. So d dot readline method, with that object only I can access the methods and variables of data input stream, right? So here the input is available in the string format. That string format is converted into integer using integer dot parseInt method, and that converted integer is stored in this size integer variable, right? So now here I am taking syntax to initialize array dynamically. What is the syntax here? You can see that here the syntax. Here the syntax, first I need to take array reference variable, nothing but here you can see this is the reference variable for array arr. So you can take arr only because already you mentioned here that this is single dimension and it takes integer, so no need to mention it again and again, right? So no need to write like this again, and no need to mention int here again, right? So you can use reference variable here, and then after what you have to use new keyword, and that then what, here you can see from the syntax you need to mention data type. So what kind of data you need to store? I need to store, because it is an integer array, right? So I need to store integer only. So and what is the size, how many values you wanted to create? Here I have taken dynamically, right? So I am passing that variable here, size. For suppose if you mentioned size is 5, so what is the result here? See that here the result is arr is equal to new of integer takes 4 bytes, so 4 bytes into size is 5, then definitely 4 into 5 is 20, right? So here you can see new is a keyword, to create dynamic memory. So new is a keyword for dynamic memory allocation. So how many memories are required? 20 bytes of memory. 20 bytes of memory is required. And what is the mode of that allocation is dynamic memory allocation. 20 bytes of memory was allocated dynamically for what? ARR variable. So that is the scenario will happen at line number 10. Using that statement, dynamically the required amount of bytes will be allocated based on the data type. Then after you can, there is no here what will happen in the memory is, in the memory if the array size is 5, if the array size is 5 in the memory, after executing line number 10, automatically the array, the continuous memory locations will be reserved for that array, and in every memory the default value for the integer, what is the default value for the integer? 0, right? The default value of 0 will be assigned, and the name for this for memory area, for 20 bytes of memory area is what? ARR, right? And these are indexed from 0 to what? 0 to 4. So for all these memory area there is a single name. If you wanted to access individually, you can go with the index number, right? So here, coming to our program, so now after executing line number 10, the representation in the memory is like this, but I need to assign values in this locations. So for that you can assign values using using ARR of 0 is equal to 10, ARR of 1 is equal to 15, and so on. What? ARR of 4 is equal to 20. You can assign like this, or you can automate this. You can automate this, and you can read the values. You can assign the values dynamically also. Okay. For that I'm taking for loop for I is equal to 0, I less than arr of length I plus plus, and here arr of I is equal to what, integer percent, right? Read the read line. So done, it's done. Dynamically we are reading values into array, and those values are printed here, you can see that. So for user friendliness, what I will take is, I will take as I will print an output statement that enter values into array. This is the user guiding statement, nothing more than that. And here I wanted to print values in the array, right? And save it here, compile the program one more time. What is the name? Forgot what, semicolon, line number 10. And one more thing, whenever you have mentioned read line, then you can use throws exception also. It's done. Enter array size, I'm taking 4. Enter values into array, 1 2 3 4, and values in the array, right? So that is the way that you need to allocate size of an array dynamically using what, new keyword. Using the support of new keyword, and you can assign size of an array dynamically. This is all about a single dimensional array. In the single dimensional array, the declaration of variable is in uh, 3 types. So these are the three types you can mention. You can see that this is a third one, or you can use like this also, or otherwise you can declare like this also, no issue, not at all a problem. So these are the 3 ways that you can declare a single dimensional array. And another thing is, after single dimensional there is multi-dimensional, right? So multi-dimensional, what is multi-dimensional array? So anything that is not single dimension, anything more than one dimension, more than one dimension in the array is nothing that multi-dimensional array. So we will look at that also, the syntax of multi-dimensional array. You can see that here. So see that in multi-dimensional array, data is stored in row and column based index, and it is also known as matrix form. See that these are the 4 types of array variable declaration. For declaration only, these are the 4 types: data type, and row and column, and variable, right? And data type, row and column, variable name, and data type, variable name, row and column. Here you can see that there are 2 array uh, indexes, right? 2 dimensions here. So based on the dimension, you can assume that the type of an array. If it has 2 dimensions, so 2 dimensional array, 3 dimensions. If it is having 3 dimensions, three dimensional arrays. So anything more than one is comes under what, multi-dimensional array. And here also you can see instantiating multi-dimensional array. So instantiating also you need to instantiation initializing the array is required while running the program, or you can mention the size of an array in static also, right? So we will see the program using multi-dimensional array. I will modify this program. Multi-array, and here I'm taking how many dimensions here. This is single dimension, right? So here I'm taking 2 dimensions, so it will comes under 2 dimensional array. And for that 2 dimensional array, here what is this thing? This is row and this is column, right? Row size and column size, so it is a like a matrix form, right? Enter the size of an array. Instead of enter the size of an array, I will modify the statement as enter row size. And r, already r have taken here, right? R-O-W row, copy this thing, and I'm using this for column also. Enter column size, and here col, then done. Then what? Referencing variable in initializing the array, new keyword is common, but here in this case this is for row and this is for column, right? So see here, if the row is 2 and column size is 2 and data type is integer, right? Here data type integer. Data type means it takes 4 bytes, 4 total 4 into 4, 16 bytes of memory is required. So that is in what mode? Dynamic mode. In dynamic mode, 16 bytes of memory in dynamic mode will be assigned to ARR referencing variable here. So here you can see that dynamically, if you wanted to enter values into array, so here I need to take what? One more for loop here. Int j is equal to 0, j less than column j plus plus, and this is not valid here. I need to take I less than row, and here I need to change what? J. I is for row and j is for column. I'm reading all the values there, and then after here if you wanted to, this statement is values in the array is common, but I need to change here j, and I need to give one more for loop, and this is also row, right? This is column and j, right? Save this one using save as. So here multi arr dot java, no, don't replace that. So already the program is available, so MULARR, I will change this name also. Compile this thing. done. Run this thing. So enter row size 2, column size 2, enter values 1 2 3 4, and 1 2 are there, and there is an error there. J is equal to 0, j is less than column j plus plus, and here j less than column. Again compile, again run. 2 2 1 2 3 4 values are there, 4 values are printed. If you wanted to print those 4 values in matrix format, so you can use this. And instead of println you can take print, and here you can take tab space. See that it was in matrix format, 2 by 2 matrix. So this is two-dimensional array, and we will see some of the different types of arrays. Another one is anonymous array. So what is anonymous array? As the name suggests, that was an anonymous, right? Anonymous, what do you mean by anonymous? Means there is no name for that anonymous array. There is no name for the anonymous arrays. So look at that, we can create an array. The definition, we can create an array without name. Such type of values are called what? Anonymous arrays. And such type of nameless arrays are called anonymous array. The main purpose of anonymous array is just for instant use, and just for one time use, because there is no name for that, right? If there is no name for that, means what will happen there? So if there is no name, then automatically once you have used that thing, automatically it will be erased from the memory. So there is no existence for that. And see that, just for one time uses. Anonymous array is passed as an argument to method. We'll create a program for this anonymous array, and new, I'm taking a class, and ann anonymous. I'm saving the program here, ann dot java. So, and in that I'm taking a public static void main there. So why the public static void main? Means the program will started executing from here itself, right? This is the public static void main, and I need to take another method also. I'm taking another method. That method name is display, and here I wanted to take an argument array, that is a single dimensional array. So here I have taken single dimensional array, and I wanted to print the values in the array. So for printing, what I need to do is, you need to take a for loop or while loop, right? For is very easy. So I'm taking for int I is equal to 0. So I less than what? ARR dot length, I plus plus. And here you can see the printing statement system dot out dot println, system dot out dot println arr of I. That's all right. So this is a display method, and that too, this display method is instance method, not static method. So to call this method, I need to create an object for that class ann. Okay, obj is equal to new ann. So this is the constructor, default constructor. So here you can see I don't want to create a name for that class. According to the definition, you can look at that one more time. We can create an array with a name, without a name. Such type of nameless arrays are called anonymous arrays, and they are used for one time purpose. So here, without name, how to create an array? That is the question, right? So I'm calling method display. Method display, here I'm calling method display, and using this new int. So here you can see that dynamically I'm passing values here, dynamically I'm passing values 10, 20, 30. So enough. For these values, you can observe that for these values there is no name for the array, but still I am passing an array, as an argument. Here according to the definition, anonymous array is passed as an argument to method. So here I am passing this anonymous array as an argument to this method, display method. So those values will be stored in this array and those will be printed. We will see that. Any errors? Line number 6. So Java C line number 6 not saved here, I think. So program was compiled successfully and I am running the program. See that is the example for anonymous array. So without name we have created that. And one more array is jagged array. What is jagged array? So see that if we are creating odd numbers of columns in 2D two-dimensional array, it is known as jagged array. In other words, it is an array of arrays with different number of columns. So look at that example. We will it is very clear in the example, but we can say this also as array of arrays. So jagged array is nothing but array of arrays. In the array you can create many number of arrays. So we will see that practically in this program itself. I am taking, and here jagged arr. So in the jagged arr I am taking an array static allocation. I want to take a static allocation instead of dynamic int arr. This is what? Two-dimensional array, right? And here I am taking static allocation. That means see here I am taking 3. That means row is 3, but I am leaving this thing empty. So here I am taking 3 as a row for two-dimensional array, and left blank for column indexing. So this type of array is nothing but jagged array. See that here what will happen means arr of 0 is equal to new int of 3, arr of 1 is equal to new int of 2, and arr of 2 is equal to new int of 4. See that? What are these are single dimensional arrays, right? If you have single dimension, then these will come under single dimensional arrays. So these are single dimensional arrays of what? The referencing variable is arr. So according to the definition of jagged array, so a jagged array is nothing but array inside arrays. So nothing but, for example, nested loop, a loop inside a loop, right? Like that. This is jagged array, an array inside an array. So right, and you can see that these these values are different, right? It is taking index number 0 is taking 3 values, index number 1 of arr takes 2 values, index number 2 takes how many values? 4 values. The pictorial representation will be like this. So the array name is what? The array name arr, right? So arr, and here you can see that this index is 0 and this index is 1 and this index is 2, right? And not only that, here you can see that one more array inside it, one more array inside it, and one more array inside it. Nice, right? This array takes what? 3 values. This array takes 2 values. This array takes 4 values. Okay, and indexing is also according to the definition of array 0, 1, 2. And if you wanted to access a variable here in this location, then you need to access, right, arr of 0, 1, right? Here in this, if you wanted to access value in this location, arr of 1, 0, right? So nice. We'll continue this program, and these are not our program statements, previous program statements. These are the previous program statements. I'm taking a variable called c. There is no c variable here, right? Okay, c is equal to, I am assigning it to 0. So I'm taking for loop for int I is equal to 0, 0, I less than arr dot length and I plus plus, right? And one more for loop, because that is a 2-dimensional, right? Int j is equal to 0, j is less than, see here, arr of I dot length. Nice, right? And j plus plus, because we don't know the size of, these are different sizes, right? We don't know the size of these values. And so then after what, I'm assigning values into that, is equal to C++. Count. If the value is C is equal to 0 means I wanted to increase 1, and then after what you need to do is take the same logic and copy this thing and paste it here, and you can print that thing. System dot out dot println arr of I j, right? S capital here. Save the program. Oh, ANN, the name ANN that is there. So save as. JARR dot Java. Save this thing. If there is any errors, the compiler will show us. Done. There is no errors in the program. Running the program again. Could not find. Okay. Right. You can see that values are printed. This is a jagged array. So this is all about the arrays. I think you are clear. If you have any doubts regarding these arrays in the Java, so you can just feel free to comment below, and I will respond as early as possible. Thank you.